Welcome to another episode of the Ultimate Freedom Teachings video series.
Hey, Robert here. Welcome to another edition of Friday Q&As. In a couple of seconds, I'm going to read the question for this week that came in, and then I'm going to answer it. But before I do that, I just want to let you know, it may surprise you to hear that the kind of question, the kind of description that you're about to discover is something that I actually get a lot. It's not rare, it's not unusual, and that's why I've chosen to address it today. So, let's take a look here. I'm going to read it verbatim exactly as it came in. This is from Walter. For the past 2 weeks, I've been cursing my infinite I for the shit that's been going on in my life. Walter, if you're watching this, forgive the laugh. I'm not laughing at you, as we're going to get to. I'm laughing with you because I know what this is like. I've had enough of this game, and I want to check out. I've tried it once when I was 16, but failed and woke up in the hospital with an IV in my arm. What my question is, why must everything in my life cause so much pain and unhappiness? I am in a love-less relationship for 15 years. The tax service is persecuting me for a debt that is in dispute. My health is in decline. I am not getting any thoughts or ideas as to what I can do to have some peace of mind. I've thought of selling the house and ending my relationship, but I am sure that would not solve anything. My infinite I would just create more shit. Before I was introduced to you, I was immersed in the books and videos of conversations with God, hoping I would get some insight on why my life sucks. Ha ha ha. Things are even worse now. So my infinite I is having a hoot while I'm in total distress. I'm playing a game of Monopoly and I'm stuck in jail with no free card to get out. Okay, now Walter and everyone else listening, the reason I'm laughing is because with some slight modifications to the details, I can totally identify with everything that you just said. On my journey into what I call Phase 3 and Ultimate Freedom, when I first made the leap into Phase 2 and started drilling through the cloud cover, and then in the final transition, if you will, from Phase 2 to Phase 3 and Ultimate Freedom, I had 2 major cycles after a very difficult life before that. But 2 major cycles as I was knocking out cloud cover. And by the way, if you don't know what I mean about knocking out cloud cover, you'll see a little banner showing up on the screen now with a link where you can go to my website and get a free training to introduce you to the core concepts of the teachings. But 2 major times for multiple years, that's exactly how I felt. Exactly how I felt. I felt like a victim. I felt like my life was shit. I felt like who I really was, what I now call true creative essence, what I've called consciousness and expanded self in other teachings, was against me. And actually, Walter, if you're watching, you'll probably get a kick out of this. The way I experienced it, and it isn't true, it's just the way I experienced it is, true creative essence was floating over my left shoulder all the time, watching what was going on in my life, and looking for opportunities to intentionally throw a wrench into anything that I was doing, just for what I felt, not true, but what I felt was just for the twisted pleasure of seeing me squirm. That's how I actually felt for a really long time. That it was like this evil, gleeful, mischievous, whatever entity that was looking at what was going on in my life and saying, ooh, where can I screw him up? Where can I fuck him up? Where can I cause him pain? And then, oh, I got another opportunity, whammo, and then something would happen. That's how distorted I was and how I was perceiving things. And then the other thing that would happen that was like that is so many opportunities, great opportunities, like, okay, I'm finally going to get what I want. I'm finally going to have this success. I'm finally going to whatever. I just got this awesome opportunity, and these great things would get dangled in front of me, and I'd start moving towards them, and then just as I was about to grab the brass ring, as they say, it would get yanked, and the opportunity would go away, and ooh, God, did that make me angry. Long-winded story and explanation that I totally get where you're coming from. And what I want to say now is, the first part of what I'm going to say is truth to my bias with a capital T, but it isn't going to make you feel any better. It isn't going to help you as it appears right now. It's going into what I call your incubator, and it may help you at some future date, but it's the truth nevertheless. And I look at my job, my role is to shine the light of truth with a capital T through my biased eyes on things when somebody invites me to, and so that's what I do. So the first thing that I want to share is, as you know from the teachings, there's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And if your experience is only from one of the Busting Loose books, then you may not know about phase 3 or what I now call Ultimate Freedom. You just know about phase 1 and phase 2. It's all covered in the training, the free training that you can get on the website. And it'll clarify all of that. So as you know, phase 1 is all about experiencing being the opposite of who you really are as an infinite being, what I call true creative essence now, what I used to call consciousness or infinite being or expanded self. And it's about having experiences that are opposite to who you really are. So when you say infinite I is having a hoot while it sucks for me, the truth is, yes, who you really are is having a hoot, is loving every second of every experience that you're having. And the reason that you feel like it sucks, the reason that you, bear with my language, hate it and want to get out of it and get me out of here, I can't stand this anymore, is because of the cloud cover. So who you really are, I'll use your label, infinite I, is experiencing is in a truthful with a capital T relationship with everything that's happening in your life. And let's imagine that who you really are is the equivalent of the sun, to go back to a metaphor that you know that I use. And let's imagine that I'm going to illustrate the sun as my fist here. So true creative essence is experiencing what's actually happening. And it is, yes, having a hoot with absolutely everything that happens with you and me and everybody else. But then for us, when we come here, so to speak, bear with the language, especially if you're aware of the Ultimate Freedom teachings. In order to play the human game in phase 1, this very solid, dense layer of cloud cover has to block that experience of truth with a capital T. And when that happens, everything starts to get distorted. And what's really beautiful and amazing and extraordinary and is being enjoyed gets turned into, because of what's in the cloud cover, gets turned into shit and bad and I hate this and get me out of here and this is terrible and this is positive and this is negative and all these kinds of things. That's what's in the cloud cover. It's a machine, if you will. It's a system, if you will. It's a dynamic, if you will. Words don't serve. That takes the truth and turns it into something else, turns it into the opposite of it. And that's what phase 1 is all about. Now, if that's all there was, from a certain perspective, the perspective of us as players, as characters in the story, whatever you want to call who Robert is and who you are, everybody watching this, from our perspective, it wouldn't appear to be very fun, even though who we really are would be having a lot of fun. But the opportunity that I discovered first with the Busting Loose phase 2 teachings and then going deeper and deeper and deeper into it with the phase 3 Ultimate Freedom teachings is that it is possible to knock out the cloud cover, and it is possible to experience everything that's happening in your life, what I now call in your story, exactly the way who you really are does. And it doesn't matter what's happening. And by the way, you have already had this experience. And you just don't think about the significance of it if you're like I used to be and like most people are. You have had this experience many times, and depending on your personal habits, Walter and everybody else watching, you may have this opportunity every day, a lot, or from time to time. But you have this same exact experience when you watch a really great movie, when you watch certain things happening on certain TV show episodes, when you read a really great novel, when you read a really great story. And in a slightly different way, not as great of a metaphor in some cases with playing video games, if you happen to do that, anybody watching, is that, bear with the language, you'll know what I mean, bad things happen to good people all the time in novels and in movies and in TV shows, and we don't care. We're enjoying the story. It doesn't matter if somebody gets sick or somebody goes bankrupt or somebody's embezzled from or someone's cheated on in a romantic relationship. You know, we're turning the pages of the story, and if it's a great story, we're enjoying the story. It doesn't matter what's happening. Same thing with a movie. You know, we watch movies about alien invasions. We watch movies or TV shows where there's torture and there's crimes and there's people being abused and all these kinds of things, but we have a different relationship to it. We have a truthful relationship with it, being the reader of the book, the watcher of the movie or the TV show. So it is possible to live your life and experience everything exactly the way who you really are does. So it is possible for you to get just as much of a hoot, to use your language, out of everything that's happening as who you really are does. And I discovered a way to do that. I discovered a way to knock out the cloud cover. And in the teachings that you're probably aware of, the Busting Loose Phase 2 teachings, that was one way, one path through the cloud cover, one way to do this. And then as I knocked out more and more cloud cover and more sun started to shine in, and I started to get into much more of a truthful relationship with everything that was happening, then the Ultimate Freedom Phase 3 teachings were born, and that's what I've been sharing for a while now and I'm actively sharing right now. But the first thing I just want you to know is it's possible to do that, and it's not possible for some people but not others, because some people are more advanced or more this or more that, or I'm special that it happened to me but it won't happen to you. It's possible for anybody. It depends what your story's about. And if you've been watching the videos I've released lately sequentially, then you know that I talk a lot about life purpose and mission and what your story's about as being a limiter and restrictor. But so the first thing I want to say is it is possible to knock out the cloud cover and experience everything exactly the way who you really are. Again, what I now call true creative essence does. And that's what's happening in what I call the Robert story now, and in the stories of thousands of people around the world who have embraced the teachings. And in your question, you didn't say how long you've been using the tools that you discovered, if you've been using them, what's been going on. So there's certain things I could say here that I can't because I don't have those details. But the first thing I want to say is it is possible for this to happen and to experience being a truthful relationship and be able to enjoy everything. And the interesting thing is, and I go into much more detail on this in the Ultimate Freedom Teachings, the interesting thing is when you can be in a truthful relationship and you can be, let's call it appreciating, enjoying, being in a truthful with a capital T relationship with everything's happening, when what you would have once called bad stuff is happening, when the cloud cover's knocked out or mostly knocked out, you don't look at things as good and bad anymore. Everything's either good or everything's neutral, but the bad goes away, the negative goes away. When you can be in a truthful relationship with stuff happening in your life that you would have once called bad, awful, horrible, get me the hell out of here, I hate this is terrible, the kind of stuff that you narrated in your question, when you can do that, ironically, even though it wouldn't matter at that point, it opens the door to those kinds of things changing. But in a way, and this isn't a rule or a formula, it's just what I experienced, the litmus test, the proof in the pudding, whatever you want to call it, is when you can be in a truthful relationship with everything that's happening in your life, even when it's what you would have once called bad or awful, no matter what's happening, you can be in a truthful relationship. That's the proof. Anybody can be in a good mood when good stuff's happening. Anybody can deal with things better, so to speak, when they're having a good day. But when something, I'm just going to use colloquial language, when something really awful is happening, when something's really bad is happening, and you can be in a truthful relationship and be getting a hoot out of it like who you really are always has and is now, that's the litmus test that this has really happened. And it opens the door for your story to change in a radical way, because once that's happened, and the sun's shining and you're in a truthful relationship with everything, very often what happens is true creative essence starts to write different scenes in your story that even though you don't look at it anymore, and I get this is hard to believe or accept, but it's true anyway with a capital T. Even though it wouldn't matter to you, like it doesn't matter to you when you're reading a novel. In most cases, there are exceptions. We can read novels about certain things, watch movies about certain things, watch TV shows about certain things, and with our uniqueness, certain things that we watch or see or read bother us so much that we close the book, we turn off the whatever. But in general, all of us have the capacity to read novels, watch movies, lots of things happening in TV shows where lousy, bad, horrible, painful, whatever stuff's happening, And it doesn't faze us, and it doesn't affect us the way it does when it's happening in our own lives. And so that's what I want to say to you. So the question is, how are you going to knock out the cloud cover? And there's two options for doing that, because once you do knock out the cloud cover, or knock out enough of it, poke enough holes, knock out enough chunks that enough sun is shining in and you're experiencing enough truth with a capital T, all of this will take care of itself, and it'll take care of itself in two ways from my experience and the experience of people all over the world that have followed this path of embracing the teachings that I share. And that is, one, when this happens, like I said, it is possible 24/7, no matter what's happening, to be in a truthful relationship and to use your language, to be having a hoot no matter what's going on. And that's just what you're experiencing naturally, automatically, all the time. It isn't, this happens, and the response that comes up is, oh my God, this is awful and terrible, get me the hell out of here. And then you do some technique to turn awful, terrible into, oh, I'm having a hoot. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the natural, automatic, 24/7, no matter what, experience of with a capital E, perception of with a capital P, is the same exact thing as who you really are. True creative essence is experiencing your thing and always has been, because the lies, illusions, and stories that were distorting it and turning it into something it's not are removed, and you're experiencing what's actually happening, the truth of it with a capital T. You're in a truthful relationship with it with a capital T. And everything changes when that happens. So there is hope. On my journey, it did not happen overnight. It was not finger-snapping magic. It unfolded over multiple years, and as I've mentioned, my journey tends to be different, and many things tend to take longer than they do for other people, because I'm going to end up teaching it, and that's very supportive to me to be the kind of teacher that works for this Robert character. So again, the question is, are you willing to do what it takes to knock out the cloud cover? Because that's the only way through your dilemma, is to knock out the cloud cover. No book that you read is going to make any difference. No workshop that you do, no audio that you listen to, no tech, nothing's going to make any difference to how you're feeling and what you narrated here until this happens. So the question is, are you willing to do what it takes for this? And which way do you want to do that? And so you've got multiple options for how to do that. One, you didn't get specific on it, but my guess is that you read a Busting Loose book most likely, but I'm not sure. You might have had some other experience. So from the book, if that's the case, you have everything that you need in there. You just have to dig in and keep using the tools, which again, you didn't mention here. So I don't know if you just read the book and said that's interesting and put it down, or if you've actually actively been using the tools. So option one is do what you already know and keep drilling. And again, for me, I used those tools for 3.5 years before any major movement happened in my life. That's not a rule or a formula. That's just what happened. It's also, to me, bargain of the century, 3 years for this to start happening in a big way, and stuff I struggled with my whole life, 40 whatever years, 46 years prior to that, changing. And if you look at the decades that so many people spend embracing techniques and things, trying to change their, so 3 years was nothing, even though at the time I would have taken this if it was offered to me, but it wasn't. So option one is somehow you know about the teachings, somehow you know a particular way, odds are phase 2 busting loose stuff for how to do this. If your experience is only of a book, the second option that you have is there's an online experience that's called the True Prosperity and Abundance Experience. And it's a 24-week experience that goes much deeper into what's in the book. And there's also coaching from me that's available. You have access to me to get support along the way. And there's also now a big archive of questions and answers and support from other people that have gone through the experience through the years. So that's the second option if you want to go deeper. And the third option is to have what I call the Ultimate Freedom Experience. And as you can discover on my website, if you get the free training, you'll see that little banner up on the screen again right now. You'll find out more about this, but the Ultimate Freedom Teachings, there aren't any techniques. You don't drill through the cloud cover over multiple years or whatever else it is using particular tools, practices, techniques. The Ultimate Freedom Experience itself does this to one degree or another as you're going through it and then it's like a drop in the pond that ripples out afterwards. So that would be your other option. So the question is, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to do what it takes to do this? Because it's not easy. It can be, but in general it doesn't tend to be for a variety of reasons we don't have time to talk about now. Do you? Are you committed to that? Are you willing to do what it takes? And then the next question is, if yes, you're willing to do what it takes, you're committed to that, then you just have a decision to make. Continue doing what you already know. Go deeper with the true prosperity and abundance experience, which you can find out about on my website. Go to the website, click on store, sort yourself into newer experienced, and then go to online courses and you'll see a description of that. Or participate in the Ultimate Freedom Experience, which, by the way, is ultimately what completed this for me and ended that whole cycle of me looking at things the way you are and that you narrated here, and feeling that way and struggling with those kinds of things. So those are your options. You know, if I could just come out there, tap you on the head, and make all of this go away, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. Because when I look at what I went through, and when I look at how many times I felt, and by the way, on my journey through the cloud cover when I first went into phase 2, and in the journey into Ultimate Freedom Awakening and into phase 3, I don't even know how many times I felt like you narrated here, including wanting to end my life is what came out. I never actually tried it. I never did anything about it. But the thought appeared in my mind over and over and over, and I spoke out loud to True Creative Essence probably hundreds of times, maybe 1,000 times. If you add up the years of the going through the cloud cover in phase 2 and then the final transition, it could be 1,000 times that it was like, I can't do this anymore. I've had enough. If this is what you're going to keep doing to me, if my life is going to continue being like this, then get me out of here, because I'm done. I can't. I can't do it anymore. And to have experienced that, to experience what I know you're experiencing, and then experience this, you know, first loosening, and then some going away, 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 and then pure this was extraordinary. And now it kind of fades. I can remember how awful it was, and how many times I wanted to give up, and how negative it all seemed. I have a recollection of the fact that that's how I used to perceive things. But I wouldn't trade 1 second of it, because the journey, the story, the unfolding of all of that was extraordinary, and that's the other opportunity for you. So, to close, I can't give you any magic bullet, magic pill, magic tap, magic whatever that's going to change everything for you overnight, but what I want to do is give you hope. This is why you're feeling the way you do. There's all this stuff in your unique cloud cover that is masking the truth, that is distorting the truth of what's really going on, that's stopping you having a hoot from everything. And it is possible for this to happen. It's happening for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people all over the world now that have come into my sphere of influence. It's possible. It takes commitment, it takes time, and there's different options for you to take. So I wish you well. I hope that you will. You know, I feel like saying your story is your story. What's going to happen is going to happen. But I'd love to see you make the commitment, do what it takes, choose one of those options, stick to it until this actually happens, and totally get where you are. Again, 1,000 times probably, I went through cycles of feeling exactly the way you did, and I've been there, done that. I really know what it's like. I know how difficult it can be. I know how it can ripple through every aspect of your life. And there's hope. Things can change when this happens.
If you'd like to get more information on what you just discovered, go ahead and click on the Learn More button that you'll see appearing in a few seconds.